Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to your Visionary Podcast. I'm your host, Visionary CJ, and today I'm switching it up on y'all. I'm creating a new structure for how I run the podcast and how I release the episodes. And so this episode will be just me, and I kind of want to share just what I've been going through and share this new structure that I have in store for you guys. I'm starting to become really intentional about the episodes that I release. And since the end of the first season, I've been getting tons of feedback on what type of episodes I should do, which ones I should stop doing. And it's a mixed feedback. And so I've become super aware of just like the different target markets that I have listening and tuning into the podcast. And so I want to make sure that me as a podcast host, I'm hitting each and every market that I have, each and every different demographic, that I have tuning in. And so with that being said, I just want to let y'all know what I have in store. And so I've been thinking about doing 4 different segments of the podcast. And if you're watching the video on YouTube, you can see I have my little notebook of knowledge where I jot down all my ideas. And so, so four main segments of the podcast. And one is going to be called Young Visionary, where I have on somebody young, primarily in their 20s, making at least 6 or 7 figures in their business, right? And so that'll be somebody like my last episode with my brother Austin, somebody just in that caliber, young, around my age, and is really just killing it in the game, right? Because ever since that episode, I've had tons of people saying I should just do more young people who are making a lot of money, and so that's what I'm gonna do. But I also want to fulfill another demographic. And so the second segment is going to be called Mentor and Me. And so with that segment, I'm going to be interviewing somebody older, more mature, more experienced in the business world, but who's also very successful. And I think that's important just to know the different downfalls that come, in business, especially once you're like 20, 30 years in the business. You've seen a lot, right? You've seen the ups and the downs. And so with that segment, I'm going to have mature entrepreneurs or just business people come on and just speak from their perspective, which I think is important for us as a younger generation, just to know what the older generation went through and just what they see about us and from us. I think that's super important, and definitely because I feel like a lot of people my age are looking for mentors. And one of the reasons why I started the podcast in the first place is to create a platform where I can have my mentors and just older people who have poured into me that I see as mentors on the podcast to really pour into you guys. Right, and so with this segment, I'll be able to do that. And the third segment is called Student Spotlight, where I have another student, college student, maybe even high school student, I don't know, but have them come on and just share their journeys, share their story, just so if there are any other students like myself, listen to the podcast, you will know that you're not the only one feeling how you're feeling, right? Because I know a lot of the times when you're in that just lost phase, that lost state, you feel alone, right? And so I feel with the Student Spotlight, we'll be able to hear from different students, and I'll also be giving some advice to students too. So if you may be feeling lost or in that state of just uncertainty, I'll be able to just give some knowledge based on my experience, as a student entrepreneur. And then the last segment is called Visionary Insight. So it'll be an episode just like this. So this is the first Visionary Insight episode. I'm excited for it, and like I said, this is just me coming and talking about my journey, talking about what's on my mind, right? Because that's one thing that I don't do in the interviews. I don't really talk about what I'm going through, but behind the scenes I'm going through a lot, right? Just trying to run the podcast and go to school, run a business, all these other things, and I'm doing this podcast. It's completely free. I don't get paid for it. I just do it because I want to serve. I want to help my peers. Help my community, and so that's really why I'm doing it, for y'all. And I've been getting great feedback, especially just a quick story. Last weekend I had my family reunion, and so it's in Mississippi, and I had he's not family, but he's basically like family. He lives in Mississippi. He's my age, and he just told me, how much the podcast has impacted him, as an entrepreneur and just as a young man, right? And that really made me feel good because all this work I put in, sometimes I feel like it's not, doing anything. But when I hear stories like that, I hear feedback like that, personally, face to face, it really just hypes me up and keeps me going and lets me know that I'm going in that right direction. And so, Mike, I appreciate you, brother. I really needed that conversation. And so what's on my mind today? Earlier today, really all day, I was at the National Achievers Congress. And so that's a 2-day business conference here in Atlanta. And it's just a place where a lot of power players come and speak. And so I got to hear from Kevin O'Leary, the guy from Shark Tank. I got to hear from Tony Robbins, he spoke for like 3 to 4 hours, which was super amazing. And the main thing I took from him is just the importance of energy. Everything that we do is based on our energy, right? And it's important to know like what energy you're putting off and what energy you're taking in, because that reflects in our actions. That reflects how we take on opportunities, take on experiences, right? And it also just controlling your state. Like in every moment, somebody is feeling a certain state, right? And that's basically your mood. Like that's something that's super popular now. Just people talking about their mood or seeing pictures and saying, "Oh yeah, that's my mood." But it's like, are you really being intentional about your mood? Because your mood affects what you do and how you think, how you feel. It's so important, and I don't think enough people are intentional about their mood, right? Really, me personally speaking for myself, I can let certain things, certain conversations just bring me down, and it affects my whole mood, and then that affects how I go into my next conversation, and that's not good. That shouldn't. Every situation you should be present. You should be presently grateful. Really, that's how I feel. That's what I try to be. But when I have these moments when I'm not being intentional about my current state, how I feel in that moment, I'm just unconscious. And that's not good for me or the person I'm engaging in interaction with. And so there's so many things that I learned today, and then tomorrow's another day. We've got Grant Cardone speaking, Russell Brunson speaking, Damon John speaking, and so I'm super excited for tomorrow. And this is something that I did for the 10X conference I went to back in February. I put together like a 20-page PDF document with all the notes that I took. And if you know me, I'm a neat note taker, and I'm a strategic note taker, just 'cause I love writing. And so that's one thing you can get from me. By the time this episode releases, I'll be done with the PDF, and so it will be on my website, yourvisionarypodcast.com. It'll probably be yourvisionarypodcast.com/NAC for National Achievers Congress. And so make sure y'all go read those notes, because it's super valuable. And I know it's information that you can get from like YouTube or podcasts, but I think it's something special, hearing it directly from their voices. And for me, just feeling that energy in the room is something that you can't get from watching a YouTube video or listening to a podcast. And so this is something I'm doing for free. I don't want anything from it. I just want to spread the knowledge that I've been blessed to receive, today, and the knowledge that I receive tomorrow. And so make sure you do that. And if you haven't checked out my 10X notes, they're still available. yourvisionarypodcast.com/10X. I've got some great feedback about those notes, and I still look at them myself. And so that's another thing I'm doing for you guys. And next, I just want to talk about my current struggle, what I'm dealing with currently. The summer's coming to an end. I'm entering my last semester of my college career, and so it's like a bittersweet moment. I'm excited to be done with school, but I'm also nervous about what's next. Kind of fear of the unknown. And mainly for me is just trying to balance everything. Having all these bills come in, but still trying to run a business, trying to run this podcast, trying to run my writing business. For those of you who don't know, I do own a writing agency, and so I have a team of writers, and we team up with different entrepreneurs, and we help them write and publish their books. And that's something I've started about 6 months ago, but we've already done 6 books. Well, I've done 6 books. My team is working on, a 3-book project right now. And so I'm super excited. I'm blessed to be in the opportunity that I'm in, but it's hard, right? Especially when you're trying to do other things. Like I have an internship this summer with an amazing marketing agency that I'm super grateful about as well. But it's just like, these are opportunities that I've been blessed to receive. So I feel like it's only right to just pursue them. But they don't always kind of provide me with what I need in terms of just financial goals, right? And so me just having to having to just strive forward, knowing that I'm not being fully fulfilled in that area, but just knowing that in the future I'll be able to impact and I'll be able to just build relationships and gain knowledge that's invaluable, that you can't even put a price tag on. And I know a lot of my friends are dealing with that as well. Like I'm not gonna put her on blast, but I had a friend, we talked last week, and she was just trying to figure out if she wants to take a break from school and work on her personal brand, work on finding herself, or if she just wants to get school over with and just be super stressed throughout the semester. And, me personally, taking a year off was the best thing that I could have done, for my life. And so, of course, I told her, I think you should take a year off. I think you should find yourself. But if you do take a year off, you have to be intentional, make a plan, work a plan. Like I told her tons of times in our conversation, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? And so you gotta make a plan if you're gonna take that big step to take a year off from school, which is a huge step, especially if you have parents, who want to see you do good, who want to see you get a degree, and basically who have like a vision of who you should be and what you should look like by a certain age. Where you kind of go off that plan, that makes them fearful. And so you just have to have a plan to know that you'll be set, or you'll just kind of have some direction for when you're out there, on your own, not going to school. Right? And so if you're hearing this, my friend, make that leap, take that leap for sure. And so next, actually back to my talking about my struggle, right? I just looked at my notebook and I saw what I wrote. But basically I just have to remind myself that I'm doing this because the life I want is extraordinary, and so it's going to take an extraordinary effort, right? I know the goals that I have aren't average, they're not normal, and I can't expect to have a normal work ethic and achieve these, extensive goals, right? That just doesn't even add up. And one thing Cardone says is, like, when it comes to your goals and accomplishing your goals, you got to do the math, and do the math in terms of how much you need to make, but also in terms of how much you need to work, right? And so that's one thing that I'm still working on, just trying to find that balance between my goals and how much work it takes to get there, because I know that's something that's super important. And also during this time, when your mind is heavy, your heart is heavy, you have so many outer influences that aren't always telling you, what you should do. I hope that I've been intentional enough to where this podcast is providing some type of motivation or inspiration, or just some type of drive or direction. But there's so many other things, negative influences, that you may see, especially on social media. Like I see it, I find myself clicking on somebody's page that I see on my explore page, just going through all their pictures and saying, dang, like they're, they lit, they're doing it. Like, I wish I was doing this. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's super important to just watch what you give your time to. And like I was saying, during this time, I've been super intentional about what I'm feeding my mind. And one thing I've learned about a year ago is that your eyes and your ears are a gateway to your mind. And this isn't my book, by the way. But your eyes and your ears are a gateway to your mind. So whatever you look at and whatever you hear, it goes directly to your mind, to your brain. And so you have to be intentional about what you're feeding your mind, because your brain is the center, kind of like the control panel of your body. Like, if your brain dead, your whole body's dead. So your brain is just super important. And so one way that I've been able to be intentional about that is just by making sure that I'm reading. Book I'm reading right now is by Damon John, actually. It's called The Brand Within. It's talking about building a personal brand. But I'm also reading Russell Brunson's book, Expert Secrets. I'm listening to podcasts. My favorite are Born to Impact, The Passionate Few, and then the Ed Milet Show. And of course, Grant Cardone, Cardone U. I'm getting on that soon. And just making sure that I'm, every time I'm listening to something, it's something that just affects me positively, gives me some knowledge. And on that note, I actually... I made my positive affirmation guide an audiobook, and so I'm super excited about that. If you haven't listened to it already, it is on SoundCloud. Just search the Positive Affirmation Guide audiobook on SoundCloud, or you can go to my website, visionarysiegebbook.com/audiobook. And so what I did with this is basically just read the book, but I also stopped stopped in between each chapter and just talked about, some personal stories or some personal experiences that have to do with whatever I was talking about in the book. And so it's not just what I wrote, it's also what was in my mind, during that time. And so it's some added value in there. And so I prefer and suggest that everybody go get that. You get it for free on SoundCloud, or you can go to my website. But on the website, you do have to give me your email address. And that's just a way that I keep up with you guys. I can just have your information so I can send you valuable things such as the PDF, the notes, and just, other things that will be just created over time. And let me check my book of knowledge. Little book of knowledge. And that's all I have for you. And as a treat, I'm going to add in maybe a chapter of my audio book to the end of this episode. And so if you are watching it on YouTube, I'll find a way to put this in the video form as well. But if you're listening to it on Spotify or on iTunes, you'll hear it shortly. But thank you guys for watching this and listening to this. And I hope you're excited for the journey, because I am. This last semester of college is really important for me. I've always been saying I have to go out with a bang. And the 3 pillars that I'm working on and I'm focusing on this last semester are attention, interaction, and impact. Right? And so I'm going to get into that more in the next Visionary Insight episode. But basically, those 3 pillars: attention, interaction, impact. Attention, getting people's attention on campus, students. Interaction, having the interaction with them, whether it be a conversation, whether it be writing them something. I'm doing poems on the green a lot this semester. So whether it be writing them a poem or just some type of interaction, even giving them a handshake, a hug, whatever it may be, but making sure that I interact with them, just because energy is everything. And so through an interaction, people can feel my energy. And the 3rd pillar is impact. And so once I have an interaction with somebody, making sure that they leave better than they came to me, and just having that impact on them. So those are the 3 pillars. And like I said, I'll get into it on the next Visionary Insight episode in August. So thank y'all for watching. Stay tuned for the next one. Peace. The Positive Affirmation Guide: How to Stay Positive in a Negative World. I'm Visionary CJ, real name Christian Brown, and I'm the author of this book. Today I want to deliver this message via audio. One awesome thing about living in this world is that you have the ultimate decision on what you do at any moment in time. No matter what obligations you make, it is up to you to follow through and show up. There's only so much time in the day, so there's only so much energy you can give throughout the day. Are you aware of what you give your energy to? And are you aware of what things take your energy away? If you are, is it worth it? If not, how can you make a change? So me personally, I changed the way I look at time. And the first step of that was changing the time in my phone. I use military time now. And so it makes me more conscious of how many hours there are in a day. And so once I see it says 17, I'm like, oh man, I only have 7 hours left in my day, right? And so it just makes me go harder, later in the day, instead of looking at, oh, it's 5 o'clock. If that makes sense. It's just something for me that I do, but I feel like everybody has their own strategies. But it's something that has worked for me, and it just makes me better at keeping time. But these energy robbers that I was talking about, they're like parasites, and they'll suck the energy out of your body. So you need to self-diagnose and look at yourself in the mirror. Trust me, you know more about yourself than you give yourself credit for. You are the only expert on your life. First, notice the 3 energies in your body: your physical energy, emotional energy, and mental energy. Then recognize which one needs the most attention. And that's so key. We have to realize how powerful we are as beings, and that just starts with knowing that we are 3-part beings, mind, body, and spirit. Just having that in mind at all times, that makes a huge difference, and it made a huge difference in my life, realizing that I'm more than just a physical person. I have a spiritual being. I'm made of a spirit that's going to live further than me, so just getting closer to that spirit and connecting with it more, just by doing the research, doing the research on figuring out how I was raised, figuring out just my ancestry and who I am as a person. It seems really deep, maybe, if you're not in tune with that, but it's something that's real, and it's something that'll help you figure out more about who you are as a person, which is important. So at the end of this chapter, I'm going to give you a task to help you put everything you're learning into perspective. And so if you're only listening to the audiobook, you won't have the physical space you need to do the chapter task, but I'll tell them to you anyway, so you can just pull out a piece of paper or a notepad and complete the task as I say them. Cool. So chapter 1 task: make a list of the things that are robbing you of your energy. Put them into 3 categories: physical, emotional, and mental. Second, go through the list and make a note of the things that are not important, however they take up your energy. Number 3, make a change and pick up a positive habit to replace the negative energy robber. And this is really cool to me. It's something that I've done with the high school class that I went to speak to, and just hearing some of the things that they believe rob their energy, such as school, relationships, parents, and I feel like the older you get, the more complex your energy robbers are. But like I told them, awareness is the first step to overcoming anything. You can't overcome a battle if you don't know that you have it, right? And so the main purpose of this task is just to do a kind of self-diagnosis to see what is robbing you of your energy, what is taking up most of your time, and just realizing if it's worth it or not. Because if it's not worth it, you should just leave it alone, escape it, and replace it with something else, such as what I mentioned earlier: meditating, reading a book, eating healthy foods, things like that give you energy, that are energy producers instead of energy consumers. Thank y'all for listening to that. That was just half of 1 chapter. And so if you enjoyed that, I'm sure you'll enjoy the whole project. And so go to yourvisionarypodcast.com/audiobook to get the full thing. Thank y'all for listening. Stay tuned. Peace.